we're going through the motions here, and it feels like the board of governors or the board of directors, excuse me, with MLSE is doing the very same. Do you expect Shanny back here or what?
No, I don't. I think a lot of people would be surprised, just because it's been 11 years and they've never gotten past the second round. And, it's as simple as that. I mean, Keith Pelley, when he took over, he came in and he was like, this is all about winning. We're not just here to sell jerseys. We got to win. We got to win. And once again, they failed to meet expectations. So the fact that his contract's up, the fact that, they've already granted him permission to talk with the New York Islanders, it feels like the writing's on the wall here, guys.
To me, that's an announcement that have you ever seen in any business them grant permission to go out and someone else can take this guy and then out of the blue they say, hey, we're extending him to it doesn't even make sense. To me, that might as well have been a press release saying we're moving on from Brendan Shanahan.
Yeah, remember when the Colorado Avalanche wanted to talk to Kyle Dubas and they wouldn't let him, right? Because they wanted to keep him and they kept him. So anytime you let a guy talk, it sounds like Lane Lambert's out the door too, right? Like when you grant permission and say, hey, go ahead, take this interview, that to me tells you well, we're not interested, or we're only, partially interested. And yeah, it just seems like a matter of time. I mean, there's so many cooks in the kitchen, even above Shanahan right now, because the sale hasn't gone through and Rogers can't make these decisions unilaterally quite yet. That, it's just going through this process, right, of having the board meet. But I think everyone would be shocked at this point if he were to come back.
And it seems to be the consensus that they're going to make more changes than just Shanahan. Do you think it's a bunch of AGMs and stuff like that? They're going to start to streamline this a bit more, I guess?
Yeah, that seems to be the word. I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Because this was once positioned as an advantage the Leafs could have, a strength of the Leafs. Hey, there's no salary cap on guys in suits. There's just a salary cap on the guys in skates. So we can have as many development staff, as many AGMs, as many advisors as we want. Everyone gets their own smoothie. Let's just go over the top with everything that doesn't have to do with the players in terms of spending, in terms of, hires. And I think now they're coming to the realization, well, just because we have all these people and, most of them are qualified, smart, great hockey minds, but at some point, how many do you need? And you look at some of the teams that are going farther than the Leafs. Like if you go do a deep dive on the Hurricane staff or the Florida Panthers staff, they're not nearly as deep. So, I think there is going to be some streamlining. What names are actually going to lose jobs, I have no clue. But that's certainly the sense, is that there's going to be some cost cutting here.
What about, I'm hearing online, everything's online, but people even talking about Treliving and even Berube being, looked at. Any surprises like that you think are going to come down the barrel? Those guys are safe, or have you heard otherwise?
Well, I don't feel confident saying they're 100% safe, just because the guy who hired Treliving was Brendan Shanahan, right? And the guy who hired Berube was Treliving. So I think it's one of those cases where, ownership was in the building for that disastrous Game 7, and there was a level of embarrassment. I think they're starting to grasp that the fan base is fed up, that the structure of this team in terms of the core isn't going to work. So I think it's one of those cases where it's like, let's take a step back here. Everything should be on the table. That said, I think Treliving, in the limited time he's had, 2 seasons, and the limited control he's had in terms of the main guys all having no move clauses and the power being in the players' hands, which Shanahan gave those players, he has done a great job in my estimation. Are there mistakes? For sure. Does he want the term he gave Max Domi back? I would guess yes. Does he want a do-over on John Klingberg and Yanni Hakanpää? For sure. But, he rebuilt this blue line. He's got one of the best goaltending tandems in the league at a really nice price point. So there is a lot of good there. So, you know, maybe they just judge it on the work he's done and say, let's not cut everyone. Maybe we eliminate the president's position and just have Trey Living report directly to Pelley. And I'd say the same with Berube. You know, you can nitpick and say maybe he got a little stubborn at the end and didn't adjust to the Panthers style, or didn't break up Matthews and Marner when things weren't going. And I think those criticisms are fair, but he basically changed their whole style of play to be more playoff suitable, got them to buy in to a north forechecking type of style, got them to block more shots and throw more hits than they ever had, play some stingy defense. I thought he did a pretty good job for first year on the job.
Look, I know fuck all about business, but this is not just the Maple Leafs. Across the league, there's a bunch of people. I have no clue what they do on a daily basis, and they get paid way more than any of us three. Let's just be honest about that. What do we know about Keith Pelley and the way he operates, though?
Well, he likes to win and he likes to be in charge. You know, I think that much is clear. I did find it interesting that he came in kind of guns blazing and talking a big game, and he appeared at the locker cleanout last year. And then when he appeared, he said that, you know, defiantly, this is about winning and we got to win. And, you know, it was shot back. It's like one of the reporters said, well, Brendan Shanahan hasn't won as president of this group. And he kind of spun it as, well, he won as a player. Well, you know, I don't think anyone's buying that, right? Like a Hall of Fame player does not necessarily equal a Hall of Fame executive. So, you know, if Pelley's gonna live up to his word, he has to follow through on that and turn this organization into a winning one, and not just one that makes the playoffs every year. It's such a crazy stat. So the Leafs have the longest active playoff streak now that the Bruins missed at 9 years, but they've never been past round 2. Like, I don't know if any sport has had a team like that where you're consistently good, very good, but consistently never great. It's wild.
Well, the playoffs are a different style of hockey than the regular season, aren't they, Luke? But
talking
about the players is obviously they got to get their ducks in a row up top, but that's probably going to be announced sooner than later. Do you expect some hammers to drop and changes to be made, announcements to come out pretty quickly thereafter?
I would think so. I mean, I wonder about a Friday news dump, or even if it takes a little bit longer and it's like a weekend news dump Sunday. I don't have a firm grasp. I just know that, you know, when there's this many voices, it's like a giant ship, right? It takes a long time to steer it, as opposed to something more streamlined. So, I feel like this could get buried out over the weekend or Friday.
Surprise, surprise. And Luke, you're around this team 24/7. Did you do some soul searching after Game 7 and wonder and look in the mirror and be like, am I too tough on these guys? You want to weigh in on the whole media circus bullshit? I guess Matthew Tkachuk, he's our voice of reason. He knows everything about this market, right?
Well, it's so funny, right? I feel like Marchand and Tkachuk, what they do on the ice, they just did to the market. Like, they know how to get under their opponent's skin. And it's like, that's what they did to Leaf fans. They knew how to get under Leaf fans' skin. Ultimate troll job. I do think there was an element of sincerity, kind of like, I'm going to stick up for my hockey brethren. And it's really easy to do that when you've just eliminated them, right?
Sure.
Just made them look bad on the ice. You could say, like, you always give the comp, like, okay, so when I'm playing my son in 21 and I kick his butt, I'm like, oh, buddy, you know, you're really close. You're really good, right? It felt like one of those things. Oh, you know, it's the fans' fault. These guys are good. But yeah, I think he played the market to a T, and it was a bit of a distraction from the fact that, you know, these guys didn't perform. They're making bad pitches. They're getting out attempted 25-0 to start the game. They're no response when they get scored on, shriveling from the moment. It kind of took away from the real issues.
Foxy, was there any part of you that wanted to ask the follow-up to the too many passengers comment? Like, who were you talking about specifically? Was there any part of you like, damn, I'd love to ask that question?
Yeah. I don't think we'd get an answer. He's not going to start listing off his teammates. That would be quite quite the move from a captain. But yeah, it definitely raised an eyebrow, right? For sure.
Foxy, maybe you don't want to go into it, but what's your prediction on what's going to happen to this organization in the next handful of weeks?
Well, I think it starts with Shanahan going, restructuring or streamlining of the head office. And then, maybe it's searching for another president type or GM. I don't know. I just wonder if they would, they have the money. Would they try to poach someone from another team? Like, I know there was some level of interest in Doug Armstrong in the past, and I know he's passing the baton. He's got one more year before he gives it to Alex Steen, but he's a guy that I don't know if there was any way to try and convince him to hang on, like someone like that, that's not afraid of the bold move, that has a vision, that has experience. I don't think you throw a rookie into that position, but if there's a way to pry a guy like that, Ken Holland, but he just committed. Like, there's not many candidates out there, but I wonder if they search for a different face of it, or if it's just direct Pelley to Trey Living. So you have to figure the top out first, and then you get into, the urgent business on Marner. All signs point to him leaving. He sounds like a guy who's already decided he's going, even though he hasn't said that explicitly. Do you salvage and trade his rights? Jake Gensel got traded for a third. Like, do you get something? I know it's not great asset management, but do you look, is there any way around that? And then, of course, Tavares, you got to figure out. You have to have a game plan here. And I don't think it should be just for this summer, because if you look at the summer of 26, there's some really intriguing free agents. So do you have like a 2-year plan in terms of how you're going to set yourself up and use that cap space that Marner's probably going to leave for you?
To your point about the president, I go bigger. There's a guy in Tampa who's the head coach there, who's an absolute stallion, coaches Team Canada, John Cooper. I think go big or go home. They clearly have money to spend. And since you opened that can of worms, you're obviously talking about Kirill Kaprizov, right? No, I'm kidding. You're talking about Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid,
Yeah.
like, is there any point in even having this conversation, you think, over the next couple months?
Yeah, I mean, it's too early, right? And the guy's trying to win a Western Conference final, but you saw that third period. Like, what is going through his mind when he's playing his butt off, and he's like, video game Connor, like, and they still lose that game because they can't get a kill, they can't get a save when they need it, right? Like, I just wonder what's going through his mind. So I don't know if a cup would make it easier for him to leave, because he can say mission accomplished. Maybe I'll try to win a second one somewhere else. Or if it makes him say, hey, we got a good thing going. I love Leon. It's one of my best friends. We can sort out the goaltending later, and he wants to stay. I don't know. But I don't think it's a guarantee that on July 1st, he re-ups there. And the longer that lingers, the more rumors there will be.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The second he's able to re-sign this max extension or whatever, and he doesn't, the murmurs are going to start, and then a week goes by, and a month goes by, and 2 months, and then he's getting asked every single day, and then he says, I'm not talking about my contract anymore. I don't want that distraction. And then everyone just starts to panic in Edmonton. Like, don't you think you'll kind of get a semblance of where his head's at kind of sooner than later?
Yeah, because they're going to hand him a blank check, right? Like, he could have got more the last time around. He was just being a nice guy, a team guy, because I really believe yes, he wants, a fair market rate, but I think he's very much in the Sidney Crosby mold, where he's smart enough to understand the business and is willing to leave some on the table, because the most important thing to him is team success. He wants that Stanley Cup more than, and like you saw how he reacted when he won the Conn Smythe. It's like, get out of here. I don't even want to accept that trophy. So I think he's smart enough to leave some money on the table. So if the Oilers are going to give him a blank check for 8 more years and let him retire and hang 97 from the rafters, and if that's not signed by mid-July, August, it's just going to get louder and louder. And it's not just Toronto because he's from here. It'll be every team. right? Because he changes you instantly.
The Leafs can't tamper Foxy, but I know who can, and that's the media. So get to work at Sportsnet.ca. McDavid at Toronto. Appreciate your time today. Great job, bud.
All right. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs, guys. Thanks.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.